pot rezista în fața unor mari imperii printr-o conjunctură.
Uitați imaginile la Marea Azov, imaginile pe care le-am trimis mai devreme, dați-le vă rog în full și în video. Haideți să vedem imaginile de la Marea Azov. Cu inima suntem alături de Evgenia și de toți cei care, iată imaginile, cum se trage. Este un avion de luptă după care se trage cu antiaeriana. Cred că a fost limpede mai devreme că a existat un contact, dar trage în continuare.
Cred că semnalele alea luminoase erau lansate de către avion ca să atragă
Rachete.
Domnule general, ca să atragă tirul?
Da, da.
Deci astea galbene sunt lansate de avion ca
Da.
să...
Da, dar cu toate astea pare că îl prinde, nu?
Da. L-a lovit și s-a prăbușit.
Uite,
S-a catapultat pilotul militar, dar probabil s-a catapultat în interiorul unității militare ucrainene. Ceea ce... Lupta asta antiaeriană e fantastică. Domnul general spune, vedeți că are uniformă albastră.
Bun, domnule general, spuneți-ne, vă rog. Deci, forța e de 10 la 1. Șansele de reușită, sigur că sunt cele care sunt. Dumneavoastră spuneți că războiul are o logică.
N-are nicio logică. Tocmai asta,
Dacă n-are nicio logică.
între ceea ce se planifică și ceea ce se întâmplă în teren, odată declanșate ostilitățile, este întotdeauna o mare diferență. Și asta nu spunem noi, a demonstrat-o războiul întotdeauna.
Pot rezista în fața unor mari imperii printr-o conjunctură.
Uitați imaginile la Marea Azov, imaginile pe care le-am trimis mai devreme, dați-le vă rog în full și în video. Haideți să vedem imaginile de la Marea Azov. Cu inima suntem alături de Evgenia și de toți cei care, iată imaginile, cum se trage. Este un avion de luptă după care se trage cu antiaeriana. Cred că a fost limpede mai devreme că a existat un contact, dar trage în continuare.
Cred că semnalele alea luminoase erau lansate de către avion ca să atragă
Rachete.
Domnule general, ca să atragă tirul?
Da, da.
Deci astea galbene sunt lansate de avion ca
Da.
să...
Da, dar cu toate astea pare că îl prinde, nu?
Da. L-a lovit și s-a prăbușit.
Uite,
S-a catapultat pilotul militar, dar probabil s-a catapultat în interiorul unității militare ucrainene. Ceea ce... Lupta asta antiaeriană e fantastică. Domnul general spune, vedeți că are uniformă albastră.
Bun, domnule general, spuneți-ne, vă rog. Deci, forța e de 10 la 1. Șansele de reușită, sigur că sunt cele care sunt. Dumneavoastră spuneți că războiul are o logică.
N-are nicio logică. Tocmai asta,
Dacă n-are nicio logică.
între ceea ce se planifică și ceea ce se întâmplă în teren, odată declanșate ostilitățile, este întotdeauna o mare diferență. Și asta nu spunem noi, a demonstrat-o războiul întotdeauna.
here's something you are not going to hear on the mainstream media. What you do hear is warmongers arguing that we must protect Ukraine because it is a quote-unquote democracy. But they're lying. Ukraine isn't actually a democracy. For example, to hold on to power, Ukraine's president shut down the 3 TV stations that were openly criticizing him and his policies, imprisoned the head of the opposition political party that had come in second place in their elections, and went and arrested and jailed that party's leaders. This is exactly what Putin has been accused of doing. But Ukraine did this all with the support of the United States.
N-am văzut niciun om, niciun ucrainean, n-am văzut absolut nimic. Am lăsat 100 de porții de mâncare undeva. Deci mă doare capul. Mă doare capul de ce văd la televizor și ceea ce este în realitate. Și vreau să fac un bine și să-mi luată în bătaie de joc. Și cheltui milioane ca să ajut niște oameni despre care văd la televizor că le frig, că au nevoie de mâncare, că sunt undeva în centre și nu există oamenii ăștia și nu i-am găsit. Da? Unde am sunat acolo, au zis că au mâncare, că au de toate. Am vorbit cu o fată care este ziaristă și mi-a zis: am mai întâmpinat problema asta, nu știu unde să te îndrum, că la sala polivalentă sunt foarte multe donații și se strică mâncarea și nu este. Și toată lumea care vine aici pleacă mai departe și au bani, au venit cei cu bani. Deci eu nu vreau să fiu, nu sunt, dar uitați prin ce am trecut eu astăzi și mie greață. Vrei să faci un bine, ești luată în derâdere? Am muncit atâtea ore, mi-au dat ciorba înapoi, da? Și au bătut 2 joc de mine și au vrut să-mi arunce și cele 100. Cum au făcut, Elena?
In 2017, Klaus Schwab, the man behind the Great Reset agenda, has found to have said something rather disturbing, and the video clip of this has recently been circulating on social media sites.
They all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. So that we penetrate the cabinets.
Now, this clip is of Schwab at Harvard Kennedy School's Institute of Politics. What exactly does Schwab mean by, quote-unquote, penetrate the cabinets? Well, it turns out that he's referring to the cabinets of some of the most notable and renowned governments all around the world. These are prime ministers, secretaries, and key figures in government. So ultimately, what this means is that the man behind the Great Reset agenda has a massive influence on our own government leaders. But just who are these people and what are their objectives? What is the end game and the plan behind all this? And that's what we're here to discuss today. So after digging further into this, it turns out that Schwab is talking about this group of people, the young global leaders. Now, the young global leaders comprise of young politicians and corporate leaders, and it was reorganized back in 2004 by Schwab himself with a similar group that was formed back in 1993. The group is supposedly governed by 12 influential people as a collective board. Now, to join this group, you have to be nominated by an alumni, and the person has to be less than 38 years old. So unfortunately, there aren't open applications for you and I to join this group today.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Now, after snooping around, according to their own website, the Young Global Leaders community is an accelerator for a dynamic community of exceptional people with the vision, courage, and influence to drive positive change in the world.
Right.
Now, the word that stands out most to me in that paragraph is the word accelerator. I mean, what exactly are they accelerating? Now, guys, I kid you not, but this is exactly what it says on their own website. It says, first, under the heading Discover, it says, through our hybrid, virtual, and in-person programming, wait, what? Hold on, full stop right there. Now, I could be reading too much into this, but it does sound rather suspicious that they, quote-unquote, program their members. And then another part of their website say when young global leaders complete their program, they're invited to join our alumni community to maintain engagement with the World Economic Forum and participate in alumni events and support new generations of YGLs.
I want you to join me.
Now, what it sounds like to me is that this is the perfect breeding ground for young influential people to basically become the thinkers and the doers for the World Economic Forum, which ultimately is behind the Great Reset agenda. But here's the thing. I've noticed a rather interesting pattern of these so-called young leaders and the current members and alumni that have political positions have collectively enacted similar policies that affect their citizen with a similar pattern. Likewise, the young leaders who have prominent roles in the business world also have collectively enacted similar policies that affect their companies and their customers. So who is exactly part of all of this? Well, on the board of 12 people itself, we have people who are princes, queens, and CEOs of big tech companies from all around the world. And of course, you got Klaus Schwab at the center of all of this. And when I visited their website to look, there were 100 pages of faces and names that I didn't necessarily recognize. But you will notice the prominent positions that they have in their respective organizations and their country. One notable member of the young global leaders is Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who, if you remember, she basically banned most firearms back in 2019, which interestingly, Canada enacted a similar ban of firearms back in May 1st of 2020, which had an oversight by the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And guess what? Justin Trudeau was a member of the young global leaders. So yes, Justin's in the fancy club. I mean, the guy is so WEF that they even gave him an entire website page dedicated to him. And you can even hear Herr Schwab say this.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
So what Klaus is actually saying is that he's got more than half of the entire Canadian government leaders under his influence. Now that's not all. Similar situations are happening in Argentina and France, according to Schwab. But outside of the ban of firearms, both Canada and New Zealand followed a similar pattern of how they dealt with the past 2 years. You know, the C word that we can't say anymore.
Child. No.
Both countries enacted similar lockdowns and strict measures. Both countries went above and beyond to restrict the liberties of its citizens by implementing the V card and suppressed protests like we're seeing right now in Canada. And I haven't even begun mentioning the long laundry list of countries that are heavily influenced by the young global leaders and how many of them are actually in government offices. And there's a lot. But I will mention this, and I'll leave this up to you to ultimately draw up your own conclusion. In the Young Global Leaders group, there is a member who is part of the Ministry of Science and Technology for the People's Republic of China. Now, don't think that I've forgotten about the US. And yes, there are notable names here in the States as well. And there is one particular individual that, really shouldn't come to you as a surprise. And that's none other than Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. That kind of explains a lot. There's also Jimmy Whale, the founder of Wikipedia, Larry Page, the founder of Google, and of course Leonardo DiCaprio, the Hollywood actor, and countless names in the entire management chain of BlackRock. You know, the company that received millions of dollars of corporate bond purchases from the Fed to ultimately buy out thousands of homes across America. And again, these are individuals that are heavily influenced by the man himself, Klaus Schwab. So what does this all mean? Well, it seems pretty darn clear that a lot of these prominent leaders, government positions, have lined up with the Great Reset agenda. And right now, when we look at the world's events and what's unfolding, I can't help but to notice that much of the attention is on the countries that the WEF has direct influence over. So far, we have an active war going on right now, bank accounts being frozen by governments, and major instability and cycles that we have never seen in the likes of modern history. Just as I mentioned in all of our previous videos about this topic, the Great Reset aims to reset the world's entire economy by redistributing your wealth, consolidating the world's currency into one, and ultimately eliminating your ownership of everything and expecting that you'll be happy. And the fact that many of the world's leaders are influenced by this belief, you and I need to be prepared. So if you'd like to learn how to prepare for the Great Reset agenda like the elites, click on this video where I've shared financial strategies on how. But don't forget to also check out this video where I talk about how a potential collapse for the US dollar could unfold.